Welcome everyone to this presentation on motivation and needs assessment. So this is the fourth week of our TA basic course learning. Now you have learned about ego states, you have done your egogram, you learned about how transactions are made and the different types of transactions. Now we are going on to a deeper theory on transaction. Transaction we learned have three parts: the stimulus, the response, and the freedom in between. Now, every stimulation is a transaction. Every stimulation is also a motivation. That is what we are going to learn today. Let's see how it works out. Factors that motivate people can be divided into biological and psychological. One of the biological motivation is hunger. Many people do a lot of things because they are hungry. Or in the earlier days of our revolution, everything human race did was to quench their hunger. Now, as we advanced, we had this need for security, the need for social status, the need for self actualization or spiritual development. So, these are probably different levels of our motivation. So, of this, the social status, self actualization, and spiritual could be seen as psychological. The hunger is purely biological. Need for security probably falls between both. It's a social thing. Now, Eric Berne in his theory has identified 6 hungers. Here, the word hunger is used not just for the biological hunger. He's identified our the human motivation are, and he calls them hungers, because hunger motivates us biologically. So the first one he says is stimulus hunger. So like we learned earlier, our nervous system can survive only if it is stimulated. That is the way it has been created. So he calls it the hunger to be stimulated. We cannot survive if our nervous system is not stimulated. The fact is, we are not aware of it. Every day the sun rises, it's a stimulation. When the sun sets, darkness comes, that is another kind of stimulation. We hear sounds, we see things, they are all stimulation. What keeps us going on is this stimulations. So we cannot live without stimulation. So he calls it stimulus hunger. Now, contact hunger. Our skins earn to be contacted and touched, especially as babies. We have plenty of evidence how babies need constant touch and cuddling. You, as many of you are doctors, you all know how the baby friendly hospital initiative and the breastfeeding promotion are all connected to the need of the baby being in contact with the mother. So the baby will not grow healthily if the baby is not given sufficient contact with the mother's skin. Another hunger he identifies is the sexual hunger. We are all grown up people, you know how the desire, the earning, to be one with another person, to be in sexual relation with another person is so inherent in us. It's again called sexual hunger. This may be a new word for you, structure hunger. Eric Berne says that the waking hours of our time needs to be structured and we are earning for that. So there is a pattern that you can see in people, how they structure their waking hours. We'll learn about it in detail later. Now, another kind of hunger is incident hunger. All of you would have experienced boredom sometime or other. So that is incident hunger. When you don't have any incidents, when you don't have any big stimulations happening, slowly your system becomes bored. So there is a hunger to be stimulated intensely. That is incident. When things happen, our system is intensely stimulated. Another kind of hunger is recognition hunger. So, how this recognition hunger has evolved, we'll learn in the coming slides. Now, we'll start with details of the stimulus hunger. As we discussed earlier, we need stimuli to sustain life and our health. Now, there are a lot of research from orphanages done immediately the post Second World War period. One of them, particularly, I remember is two orphanages were followed up. The children in two orphanages. So, one of them had everything materially sufficient, like food, clothing, toys, everything. The other one, everything was a little short of. But one difference was there. The nurses or caretakers in the second one spent a lot of time with the babies. Whereas in the first one, it was more like mechanical. Everything was given there. Materially, everything was given, but the interaction of the nurses with the babies were not so much. Later on in follow up, what they realized is the babies of the first orphanage were more sick and more of them died. Whereas in the second orphanage, where material things were little less, but the contact was more, babies thrived. So, this kind of brought to the awareness that how important stimulation is for our life and for growth of babies. Now, there are other researches done in monkeys. One of them is the monkeys were put in a cage and food was provided in one cage with a small shock. And there was another cage where food was just provided. There was no shock. When you eat, it was just plain eating. So these two cages were connected and monkeys were put in these cages. And there was a third cage where there was food and there was a soft dummy mother kept along with the food. So the idea was to observe where do monkeys eat more from. All the three cages were provided food. Initially, food was eaten generally by all the monkeys. But slowly, what happened is more monkeys tend to take food from where you get a shock. Some of them choose the dummy mother's cage, but mostly towards the end of the experiment, most monkeys prefer to eat from the cage where a small shock was given. Again, telling us how stimulation or intensity of the stimulation is important for us. Now, let's reflect on our own experiences. Our own experiences, if you reflect, you can find that we like to spend time with people who really intensely stimulate us. People who talk, people who enjoy, and who are free to interact with us. So that's again the reason of because stimulation is important for us. Now, one general principle that he can remember here is what is stroked is reinforced, or what is stimulated is reinforced. Stroke is a very technical word in TA, we are going to learn about it. The stroke theory. The stroke theory has a definition for stroke. Stroke has been identified as a unit of social recognition. So, we learned about the stimulus hunger. From the stimulus hunger evolves the recognition hunger or the stroke hunger. Because stimulation and contact is not possible as we advance socially. It's possible only when we are babies. So, for grown up people, the desire for stimulation and the desire to be touched is slowly transformed into this social phenomenon of recognition or stroking. A stroke means a light touch or a positive verbal stimulation. Now, what are the different styles of stroking or recognitions that you can see. You can classify all the styles of recognitions or strokes into a few categories. So, negative and positive is one kind of classification. Negative is the kind of stimulation that makes the receiver feel very unpleasant. Please remember, it is the receiver's feeling, not the giver's feeling. And positive is when a stroke or a recognition gives you pleasant feeling, the receiver. Strokes could be conditional and unconditional. When strokes or appreciations are given for a behavior or something which you did, then it is called conditional. When appreciation is given for just being yourself, not for anything you do, it is called unconditional. Again, this is probably very simple for you to understand. Strokes could be given with words, then it is called verbal. Without words is called non-verbal. You can have plenty of examples for this. Please go through the written theory that I have given you. I have given some examples in that. Now, there is a rule regulating stroke exchange. The rule regulating stroke exchange is give me a kiss or at least a kick. What it means is all of us desire for positive strokes. That's what a kiss represents. But if you are not willing to give me a kiss, give me at least a kick. Meaning, if you are not willing to give me positive, give me at least a negative stroke. I cannot survive without stroke. That's what it means. So, this is an answered statement which rules many of our behaviors. Now, you may please reflect on your past and identify a positive stroke you received from any significant person in your life. Please write it down. Once you have written it down, please think of a positive stroke you would want to give to someone. Once you have written it down, check out whether what you have written is a verbal or non-verbal, or was it a conditional or unconditional. So positive strokes are strokes which makes the receiver feel pleasant. Negative strokes are strokes which makes the receiver feel unpleasant. So look at the strokes you received. Was it told to you, or was it just a non-verbal expression that you remember as a powerful positive stroke? Was it for doing something or just for being yourself? There are some more thoughts I want to share on strokes. So these are three words that we need to learn technically about strokes. So plastic strokes. Plastic, as you know, is a material which is not having life. You can have fresh flowers and plastic flowers. So here plastic means that. So plastic strokes are strokes which are given without the giver's spirit in it. So it's kind of money or pleasing somebody, just told to you for pleasing you. In Malayalam we call it maniyadi. Now, stroke bank is a concept which tells you that we remember all the strokes we received or we store it. And just like we store money in the bank, we have a bank of strokes which we depend on in times of shortage. So go back and reflect on what somebody has told you positively when you feeling very down. That kind of thing is called stroke bank. Now, stroke economy is another word. Economy is about give and take and exchange that happens in the market. So, socially, we have a pattern of economy based on which we exchange strokes between our people with whom we interact. So, we'll go into the details of it now. These are certain rules that we have learned from our culture and our parents. So, one of the rules is do not give strokes when you have them. Meaning, if you feel like appreciating somebody, don't do it because, especially children, if you appreciate too much, they may be spoiled. That's a kind of belief system our society has. There are some people who get the message do not receive strokes when you need them. Now, you can receive strokes only from chosen people. Don't receive strokes just anybody gives. Probably this was very important when we were children for our safety. But now, as grown ups, this will make us very depleted of strokes or stimulations. Another stroke economy principle is do not reject unwanted strokes when you don't really need them. It's like somebody is telling negatively about you, but you know that's not true and that's not what you want. But you can't help others doing it. So, but you can do something. Let others say that. You can just reject them internally. But we have a problem in doing that, especially if powerful people tell us negative things about us. We just receive it without rejecting it and start thinking negatively of us. So that is because we have been told that you need to learn from the negatives that is told to you. So it's a pattern that we have learned. Do not ask for strokes when you want. It's again another learning that we have. I compare it with what people do when you go into a house on a summer day. Some people, I've heard people say, oh, I walked in the sun and got to that house and they didn't offer me a glass of water. So I asked them, did you ask them for a glass of water? No, I didn't ask, but I expect them to give. See, that's because you don't have permission to ask for it. It's been culturally told to us. My question is, if you drink water that somebody gave you without your asking, or the water they gave you when you asked, either way your thirst will disappear. So, when you know you have a need, you can ask actually. But culturally, we have been taught not to ask for our needs. A very dangerous learning is do not give self strokes. It's like, especially in Christian communities, it's kind of equated to being proud, to appreciate yourself, be aware of good things about yourself. You remember, I asked you to share a quality which you are positive, that you are proud of yourself. The purpose was this to help you to give self strokes. When you become aware of a quality that you have and you are able to share that with others, it's almost like accepting that quality of yours. So that is giving self stroke. But our society generally doesn't appreciate that, and a lot of people are stroke deprived because of that. Now, how can we overcome this stroke economy or the pattern of stroke giving that we have learned? Just give strokes when you have them. Receive strokes gracefully when you need them. Reject unwanted strokes. Ask for strokes when you know you want them. You may not be able to ask to everyone, but there will be a few people with whom you can go and ask. Give self strokes. You deserve them. You have to consciously do it. In fact, when you receive all strokes, it, it all comes to giving self strokes. That means you are accepting it, even the strokes what others have given you. This will keep you motivated and this will help you to realize your worth. So these are very important practices that all of us need to do. Now, management of our waking time will depend on our stroke needs. This is what we learn about the structure hunger and working styles. I told this earlier, structure hunger I'll discuss later. So, our motivation in our waking hours is to get as much strokes as we want. Steer theory identifies there are 6 universal ways in which people structure their time. These are the 6 ways in which people structure. Withdrawal is a least risky and least strokes. Rituals, pastimes, activities, games, and intimacy. These are the 6 ways. Each of them have been explained in detail in the paper that I have given to you. Please read that. And if there is any question, you can raise it in the forum. I've given you a few explanations here. Rituals are usually practiced as a social need. Pastimes are activities where we seek partners for long-term relations. Activities are the way we structure our time to manage our material reality. Games are behaviors that seek intensive negative strokes. We'll learn about games in detail later. And intimacy is considered the most risky and the most satisfying. If you can have intimate relationship with people, it's the most satisfying. But it is most risky to start an intimate relationship also. So we'll understand as we learn more. So I'm bringing this concept of needs assessment here to understand that all of us need stroke. So when you organize a program, when you organize a teaching session, when you contact people, and when you want to build a relationship, it is very good to be mindful of what our needs are and what the needs of others are. Essentially, you and me and all of us need appreciation and recognition from others. Everything we do boils down to that. Please go to the stroking profile spreadsheet exercise I have posted for you and do the exercise to see your personal pattern of stroke dynamics. Once you see that, reflect whether you need to change any of your practices. Focus only on the raise that you want to have, meaning which pattern do you want to increase, which of the stroking pattern do you want to increase. If you want to change what you need to increase. And practice giving positive strokes to at least 2 persons every day. This is an ease of mind. You can see it's non-verbal, positive, and unconditional stroke that we are giving to each other here. Thank you and see you next week.